been using the Apple Watch Series 9 for the past week, and let me tell you, it tries really hard to steal back the show. Obviously last year we saw the launch of the Apple Watch Ultra, and while I did have a fun time experimenting with a different kind of Apple Watch, and even using it as an iPhone replacement back in December, it kind of made everyone forget about the flagship Apple Watch, which starts at $399. So what makes the Apple Watch Series 9 special? How is it reminding us that this is the very best of what Apple has to put forth in the world of wearable computing? First and foremost, the S9 processor introduces the watch's most significant performance boost in years, powering a brighter display and faster Siri interactions. A new ultra-wideband chip enables new ecosystem experiences that makes it more compelling than ever to adopt the Apple Watch too. And if that's not convincing enough, there's a new double tap gesture that makes it possible to carry out a slew of Apple Watch Series 9 functions one-handed. But most importantly, in my opinion, is the Apple Watch Series 9's progress for Apple's larger sustainability missions. Eco-friendly watch bands, reduced packaging, and recycled parts throughout make this year's Apple Watch family, including the Apple Watch Ultra 2 and returning Apple Watch SE, the first set of carbon-neutral Apple devices to hit the market. But let's back up and go over all of the upgrades in this Apple Watch Series 9 review. You'd have a hard time telling the Apple Watch Series 9 and Apple Watch Series 8 apart just by looking at them side by side, though I have a 45mm Apple Watch Series 8 and a 41mm Apple Watch Series 9. The Series 9 does come in both sizes. The big exception is if you're checking out the Apple Watch Series 9 in pink like you see here. I will say the pink finish is a bit more subdued in person than it looked in the keynote and even on Apple's website. From a distance, you might not even be able to tell it apart from Starlight, which is the silvery gold finish. But let's talk a bit more about this band and Apple's greater environmental commitments. The new Sport Loop features 82% recycled yarn, so when paired with the aluminum watch, it's the first carbon-neutral certified Apple device. Otherwise, Apple is phasing out leather bands in lieu of a new recycled textile called fine woven. Already, all of the aluminum Apple Watch models are made of 100% recycled aluminum, but now they have even more recycled internals, including a 100% recycled cobalt battery. The Apple Watch box is also smaller than before, using less paper, and Apple also says it's shifting away from air shipping and offsetting power demands to make this its first carbon-neutral certified product. The rest of the products are on pace to get this certification by 2030, but as an Apple Watch person, I'm definitely excited that this family of devices is leading the way for change. If we could take a closer look under the hood, that's where we would find most of the Apple Watch Series 9 upgrades. Apple touts some major specs for its smartwatch silicon. The Series 9 chip should see a 25% improvement to efficiency thanks to 5.6 billion transistors and 4 core neural engines that can power machine learning twice as fast as before. Effects should look smoother with a 30% faster GPU, while Siri should work faster with new support for complete on-device computing, so nothing is being sent up to the cloud. Apple says that dictation is 25% more accurate now as well. Apple Watch Series 8, Apple Watch Series 9. Here's the first thing I noticed. When I open up the app cloud, this is far more responsive, with closing it too. I'm not saying it's a huge difference that every single person will pick up on, but having used both watches, I can tell that the Series 9 is more responsive. Something pretty underrated here too is that Siri now works for some use cases offline. So on the Series 8 and previous generations, if I left my iPhone in my apartment when I went down the hall to change my laundry, I couldn't ask Siri to set a timer until I was back and connected. Similarly, if you didn't want to bring your phone out with you on a workout, you couldn't use your voice to launch the workout, but on the Series 9 you can. The S9 also helps maintain the Apple Watch's 8-hour all-day battery life despite the brightness now reaching 2000 nits. That's double the brightness rating of the Apple Watch Series 8, though the Apple Watch Ultra 2 is now the brightest Apple Watch with a claimed 3000 nits peak brightness. I'm out for a walk with the Apple Watch Series 9. It's pretty sunny, I got my shades on, and what I want to check out is how well the display is holding up in these bright conditions. Now, if I can compare this to something, it would be the Apple Watch Ultra from last year, and that totally checks out because they have the same brightness rating of 2000 nits. While the Apple Watch Ultra 2 was bumped up to 3000 nits, I would say the display brightness on the Series 9 is definitely a welcome improvement. In addition to the S9, the Apple Watch Series 9 gets Apple's new U2 ultra-wideband or UWB chip, which introduces some fresh functionality. I, for one, always misplace my iPhone and rely on my Apple Watch's ping feature to find it. With the U2, the Apple Watch Series 9 can actually direct me to my phone's location. But there's a big catch. This feature only works in this way if you have an iPhone 15 that also has the newer ultra-wideband chip. Now, I am upgrading my iPhone and know I'll be taking advantage of this all the time. I just wish that others didn't need to get a new phone for one of this Apple Watch's key upgrades to be functional. Speaking of key features, it's time to talk about double tap. Even if you already know about controlling your Apple Watch with hand gestures from an accessibility standpoint, the new dedicated double tap control looks to make single-handed Apple Watch control highly practical for all users. Imagine this, you've just picked up your coffee, but you're getting a call you'd like to take. Instead of using your opposite index finger to answer the call and possibly lose your oat milk latte in the process, you can double tap your index finger and thumb on your watch hand to start the call. Another double tap gesture will end the call when you're done. Double tap is only available for the Series 9 and Apple Watch Ultra 2 because even though the heart rate sensor is the same, the S9 processor powers the algorithm that detects an intentional double tap gesture. That said, if it doesn't sound like something you'd like or you're worried about some accidental triggers, you can disable it, but a few things to know. It only works when your wrist is intentionally raised, and sleep mode does automatically disable it as well, so you won't have to worry about double tapping apps while you're in bed. And an important disclaimer, double tap will not come to the Apple Watch Series 9 and Apple Watch Ultra 2 at launch. It will become available in October. Ahead of then, Apple has provided me a pre-release unit specifically for the purpose of showing the feature in action ahead of its release next month. Up to this point, I haven't mentioned a lot of the features that people often think about when they think about owning an Apple Watch. I'm talking about fitness tracking, health alerts, and sleep tracking, and phone calls, and using apps. The Apple Watch Series 9 has all of these features, but it ships with the watchOS 10 software version. I mentioned the Smart Stack UI, but there are also a bunch of new cycling tools, mental health and vision health features, and 2 new watch faces called Palette and Snoopy. I'm still a modular person, but there are plenty of ways to customize your experience. And luckily, a lot of these things are available for older Apple Watch models as well. Specific to Apple Watch Series 9, these aren't the features that you're going to be writing home about. If these software-based features sound more like what you're looking for than the double tap and on-device Siri, you might want to consider the Apple Watch SE 2022. Though it's over a year old, it's a great entry point to the Apple Watch experience, starting at $249. Also worth mentioning that the Apple Watch SE internals and bands are following the same carbon-neutral practices going forward, but some of the advanced health sensors, such as the skin temperature reader for menstrual cycle tracking and ECG reader that can detect signs of AFib, are reserved for the Series 9. If you're worried about longevity, the Series 9 is definitely more future-proof too, since it has the S9 processor. You can rest assured that upcoming features on newer Apple Watch models for probably a few years going forward will be built on the same processor. If you've been with me here for a while, you know I've been using the Apple Watch pretty much non-stop for years. So when I say I'm actually able to see and feel the performance upgrades, I'm not doing so lightly. Now, do I think you need to go out and get a new watch if you have the Apple Watch Series 8 or Series 7? No, not necessarily. I wouldn't say the types of improvements we saw this year are must-haves for most people. Instead, these usability-centric updates, it's just another step forward for advancing the smartwatch experience, making the Apple Watch a more essential device and hopefully powering much more life-changing features in the future. For now, if you're in the market for a new smartwatch, the Series 9 is really the best you're gonna find. The internal upgrades make a difference, the double tap gesture is super handy, and no one should take for granted the environmental statement that this year's family of Apple Watch devices make. Tell me, are you impressed by what you've seen of the Apple Watch Series 9, or do you think that Apple should have done more? Also, be sure to let me know if you want to see an in-depth comparison with the new Apple Watch Ultra 2, which I've been testing simultaneously this past week. Otherwise, you know you can find more of me and Tom's Guide on social at Tom's Guide. As always, I'm at Kate Kosich. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.